Shalom. This week we are reading Parashat Korach, beginning in the Sefer Bamidbar, Book of Numbers, chapter 16. And we read about the great rebellion of Korach. Korach was a Levite who accused Moshe of taking too much glory for himself, and his brother Aaron did not recognize the singularity of Moshe and Aaron, their humility and their true leadership, did not recognize that they were chosen by Hashem. And basically, Korach led this rebellion. The first rebellion recorded by Torah was against Moshe, and Aaron was really also against the authority of Hashem. And Korach, our sages tell us that he was really a very wise individual. He was one of the greatest of the Levites. He was a great scholar. He had an important position. He was even one of those that carried the holy Ark of the Covenant. And our sages of blessed memory talk about the different circumstances and the different aspects of what led him to this point, to come to make such a grievous mistake and basically to rebel against Moshe. We read in the Torah about what happened to him. We read that his children, originally, our sages tell us his children were part of the rebellion against Moshe. Afterwards, his own sons separated themselves from the entourage of Korach. They were saved, and this is why we have some Psalms in the book of Psalms that are attributed to the sons of Korach. And we have descriptions in the Midrash about this man's personality and about his style. We are told some very kind of bombastic expressions about Korach, that not only was he rebelling against the authority of Moses, not only did he want a position of grandeur and was he not happy with what God gave him, but also, our sages tell us, he came to the point where he actually denied God's hand in creation. He not only denied the prophecy of Moshe and the priesthood of Aaron, but he also denied that the Torah was given from Sinai. So what led him to such an extreme reaction? And what did these statements really come to teach us? One of the key teachings of our rabbis in the Midrash tells us that Korach was insistent upon trying to convince all of Israel to join his rebellion. And the night of the rebellion, in fact, he basically was up all night trying to seduce the entire nation, tribe by tribe, trying to convince them all to join him in his act of rebellion against Moses. And he came to them and he said, "Don't think that I am mounting this campaign for my own glory." He said to all of Israel, "Don't think that my cause is myself alone. Actually, I'm concerned about all of you. I'm concerned about the fact that we should all have greatness. We're all holy. I'm not looking for greatness for myself at all," he said. And thus, in this manner, he gradually won the hearts of many supporters. This from the Midrash Rabbah on Sefer Bamidbar. And what this statement of our sages is really telling us is that Korach used this idea of equality and democracy to basically write his own Torah. After all, our sages say he came to the point of not believing that the Torah was given at Sinai, and not believing that Hashem himself even created the universe. Such a wise Torah scholar as Korach, such a great Levite, how could he have come to these conclusions? That's what the element of self and self-aggrandizement does to a person. Basically, he didn't believe in Hashem's creation anymore because it wasn't big enough to hold him. He became so great, he was the very opposite of Moshe and Aaron. Why were they chosen? Because of their total humility, because of their ability to be so small in their own eyes, because of their great characteristic of self-nullification. This is what true leadership is really all about, and this is what gave them the ability to be so ready to sacrifice themselves for their people. And Korach was really looking out for himself, but in the guise of saying to his countrymen, "No, this isn't about me. Come, this is about all of us." And, of course, by not accepting the authority of Hashem as reflected through Moshe's leadership, he also was not recognizing the sovereignty of God in this world. And so there is a very important teaching here for us, for our time as well, and that is we have to realize that there is one Torah, one manifestation, as it were, of the sovereignty of Hashem in this world, and that it is basically communicated to us and safeguarded by the authorities of our people, who merit to true leadership through their overwhelming characteristic, their Moses-like quality of humility and self-nullification, the very qualities that Korach did not possess and that he resented, that he saw in Moshe and Aaron. And ultimately, when the authority of the true Torah leadership is rejected, and again, true Torah leadership can only be possessed by those that have this aspect of humility, and if we see that they don't have it, then we can suspect that it isn't true. But when we rebel against it, we are basically making up our own religion, writing our own Torah. This is what Korach was doing, and it tripped him up in the end, and it led him to his ultimate final punishments, since he basically denied Hashem's hand in creation, and a special aspect of creation that had never before been activated was brought forward, the mouth of the earth, to swallow him up, where, according to our sages, he remains to this day with his entourage suspended between worlds, still alive and still crying out from the bowels of the earth that Moshe and his Torah are true. But of course, now it's too late for Korach.